Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 7 of the Brickfilms Monthly Recap. We're the Brickfilm Bros, and in this episode, we'll be discussing everything that happened on Brickfilms.com last March. That means all the most notable Brickfilms, challenges, and contests from last month. At the end of the podcast, we'll be playing a random Brickfilm from March, so stay tuned to see whose Brickfilm was picked. Now, without further ado, let's head into our first segment. In this segment, we'll be discussing the contests that happened in March. And there haven't been a lot of contests for this month, have there? No, there was only one. Since we're recording this so early in the month, there has only been one challenge that we have to talk about, and it hasn't even wrapped up yet, so we won't have a ton to talk about other than the Brickfilm of the Month, which we also had... we also talked about a little bit on our last episode, so you can check that episode out in the link below. So with challenge 146, this one's themed to stumble, so I think this is a really neat idea to do for a challenge. I really like this idea for a challenge because there's so many ways that animating a stumble helps you with other animations, because it really helps you get used to how gravity works in animation. It's a pretty particular speed you want to move the character at, right? Because yeah, I imagine this is really good practice, because I haven't actually done too many like falling animations. I think the one I did was in a Brickfilm about the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, and that was live action, and I just brought it into stop motion studio and masked out the rig that was holding him up, and I just moved my hand with the minifigures. So yeah, there's a lot of ways you can get around like having to animate gravity by just like doing a live action shot. I like how those turn out, because it's interesting when you combine animation with live action. Yeah, it always has like a kind of like a strange feeling when you realize what you're seeing, it wasn't animated, it actually happened. Yeah, the trick is to put it at the same frame rate as your other animation, so that it's harder to tell that it wasn't animated. I think I did a pretty good job of doing this in the Abraham Lincoln animation, because I just put it at 12 frames per second when I put it into stop motion studio, and I think it turned out pretty good. It also helps to not have to add on motion blur, because you've already got that in the live action shot. Right. But with animation, it's sometimes one of the things that makes it look less real is there is no motion blur on your subject. Yeah, I haven't even attempted motion blur yet. That's probably something we should get onto. We've done some brick build. Yeah, we haven't done a little bit. I think that's the easiest one, and I actually like it better than like an edited on motion blur. Yeah, most of the time it looks more natural with the animation. I also have the same feeling about like brick built special effects. Like those kind of are the two effects that I like to see brick built, because I feel like that's part of what makes brick filming so unique is the subject, right? You can animate with anything and add on motion blur, and it'll look the same if you added it on with Lego. But if you're adding Lego as motion blur, it represents the medium that you're using really well, I think. Right, yeah. This one only has a couple, I think it has about 7 or 8 entries around there right now, so if anyone watching is interested, definitely make sure to make an animation for that one, because we could always use the extra entries. There's also another thing for this segment is there's a user-made thread for ideas for large contests. If any of you have ideas for this, definitely write them down, because some of the moderators and administrators are running out of ideas for contests. So make sure to go contribute to that thread if you have any ideas that you would like to see for larger contests. So the last part of this segment is we're going to discuss the Brickfilm of the Month. So this month we actually only got 3 votes for Brickfilm on the English side. Yeah. And the one that won was the Brickfilm Automated Ascendancy by Teutonic Pictures. I was really happy about that, because we talked about that on our episode. So if you haven't watched our episode about February, definitely go check that out. So yeah, this Brickfilm was really good. We did talk about it a lot on our previous episode, but we can just give a little bit we can just give a little bit of teaser about it for anyone that hasn't seen that one.
Yeah, so this brick film is a sci-fi brick film. It's about 10 minutes long. It's like the plot is pretty vague, but I really like how the world seems like there's so much there, even though not much of it is described.
Yeah, it's got a very good like. It seems like there is a very large world outside of this small like story inside of it.
Yeah, so I'm hoping we see more brick films from this world from Teutonic Pictures.
Yeah, it's a really good like dystopian style world that he's built. Now that we've finished talking about contests from this month, let's go to our favorite Brickfilm segment. So my favorite, one of my favorite Brickfilms from March was The Rookie Firefighters by Cheese Slope Productions. I really like all Cheese Slope Productions animations because they have like a Michael Hickok's kind of feel to them, and it's a very classic like style of animation that I really enjoy.
Yeah. He's a great example of amazing brick build effects. He's really nailed down the speed to show them at, so you kind of notice them. You don't notice exactly what pieces are used, but you see the motion blur and you realize that it's Lego.
Yeah, he's definitely a master at doing that. I also really liked the walk animations in this one because they were all very unique, and none of the walking animation was the same as the next characters, which was really cool.
I also got a very Lego Movie feeling when in the part where the firefighter builds like a skateboard out from the alleyway. That was
that was really. I really liked that part. That was I really liked how Cheese Slope Productions managed to make it look like it was being built, and it looked very similar to how it looks in the Lego Movie. I also just really liked the set design on this one because it looked very large, but there was mostly close shots, so I can see how he could made it like smaller, but look very large, which was really cool to see. I really liked the set for this one.
Yeah, there was also a lot of different locations because they were in a fire truck, and there was a lot of shots of them driving down the road. Yeah, and it was amazing the detail that went into all of the sets.
Yeah, that was really cool. So I don't have much else to say about this one, but definitely go check it out if you haven't seen this one already.
Yep, Cheese Slope Productions always makes great animations, so go check out his channel. And in this video in particular. So let's move on to my pick from March. So I really liked this brick film by The Living Brick called The Irish Jedi. So it was perfect timing for St. Patrick's Day, and it's a short animation. The creator himself said that it was basically just a test animation, but this was the first time he ever did a lightsaber battles.
Oh, that's crazy!
And it was done really well. Yeah. I especially liked when the lightsaber ignites.
Yeah, that was
instead
really cool.
of just like doing a basic like erasing the lightsaber a certain amount every frame until it reaches the top. He did like a kind of like an explosion of pieces at the bottom, at the base of the lightsaber, and
that's cool.
It was really awesome.
Yeah, I really liked that one. I especially liked all the like flipping around the characters do, and I think it was animated really well.
Yeah, The Living Brick is a really good a really good fight choreographer. There's also a part when the Irish Jedi lost his lightsaber and he picked up like a gold frying pan and started using that. Yeah. There's this one part I really liked when he backhands the Sith leprechaun with the frying pan. Yeah. And it's like he just like flies across the set, and I really appreciate how well the arm moved because it was out of its socket. Yeah. And a lot of the time this makes it much more difficult to make a smooth animation, but it moved like a real arm. Like it had all of the right speed at all the right points.
Yeah, this was a really good brick film. I really enjoyed it.
The one thing that I did find room for improvement in this brick film was the first shot had a lot of green screen on it, and the edges weren't perfect.
Mm-hmm.
There was a little bit of green on them in some parts, and they were a little flickery. But other than that, this was a really amazing brick film. So go check out The Living Brick and go check out The Irish Jedi.
All right, do you want to move on to my next pick?
Yeah.
Okay, so my second pick for best brick films of March is called Lego: A Vengeful Strike by Vulture the Shinobi. This is kind of like an anime style brick film that's based in like a Ninjago kind of universe. And I think the best part of this one was the rain animation, because Vulture the Shinobi used physical water in the brick film and like overlaid some digital effects for rain, but it was mostly just water on the actual Legos, which I think is pretty crazy when you think about trying to animate with Lego or with water all over the Legos.
Yeah, I always noticed that a lot of Brickfilmers who are more advanced and do water animation, like you can watch the individual droplets and they'll like slowly drop down. Like I can't imagine how difficult that is to achieve. But he did it really well. Mm-hmm. I also really like this one shot where the camera zooms in on his face and then his eye, like the eyeball part, the white part of the minifigure's eye is the next shot, and like zooms into his eye.
Yeah,
that was a really cool transition.
Yeah, I really liked that part. This brick film also just had great lighting overall. Everything had like a purplish red hue to it, which was really cool, and it looked very like vivid, which was nice.
Yeah, there was some really cool camera movements too during the fight scene where it would like track around the characters. And that must have been very difficult to achieve.
It had really good impact as it was going around the characters, for sure.
Yeah, I did notice at the beginning of the fight though, there were some impacts that just didn't have sound effects. I think this was probably just an accident that got overlooked during editing. But
yeah, I do think that the fight scene could have used a few more swoosh effects. There wasn't much of that. Like there was basically only sound effects when the blades and fists like made contact, but I think swoosh effects are very effective for like making it feel real, and I think this one could have benefited from more of those. The one other thing I really liked about this was the soundtrack, because it just fit really well into it. I think they picked a really good song for this one. So what is your next pick for the best brick films from March?
So my next pick is The Villain's Monologue by Bricks Connected. So this is a trio of animators, and I think they're all at different skill levels, because there were some shots that were animated like very professionally, and there were some that seemed like maybe a beginner was doing them.
Yeah.
So this was like a superhero brick film, and the villain was just like a black minifigure, like black head, black legs, black body, no print on it. So one of the things that I found most impressive about this was the villain was always floating.
Yeah,
it was like it was never touched the ground really, and it was animated really well. Even though you could see like the stick that they used to keep it up, it still looked like it was floating, which I think is a very good achievement, because it was kind of like tricking your brain into thinking that stick wasn't actually holding it up, and that's really the goal with that. So that was done really well, and I also really liked all of the animation with Moon Knight, particularly. His fighting was extremely dynamic and like smooth. There were a couple of the other characters that I think were animated by other members of the team that weren't as smooth and kind of like flowing fight, but I really like this brick film overall.
Yeah, the movements in it were very dynamic. They had a lot of impact whenever the minifigures were like being thrown around and stuff. So I really liked how this one looked, for sure.
Yeah, so I think that's all the brick films we have to talk about.
Should we head on to our random brick film segment?
Let's do that.
In this segment, we will be playing a random brick film from March, so let's get right into it.
And
the winner is Lego Captain America Episode 2.
All right.
So, this is a brick film by Emerging Darkness. Should we start watching?
Yeah, let's watch.
People of Earth, this is your end. It's my job to protect this planet. Then you have failed at your job. This battle is just stalling. I gotta find Thanos quick. You're too late. How is that possible? I have built this machine which eviscerates anything it touches. No!
That was pretty short. I think this was a pretty good brick film overall. I think it could have benefited from a walk cycle, but I do think that the short form episodes that this brick filmer does are pretty cool.
Yeah, he seems to have a lot of brick films, and they're all pretty short. But they do seem to be improving in quality, so that's nice to see. He used to have like a ton of subscribers. I don't know what happened to him. He doesn't have as many anymore.
He hasn't been posting as many brick films, so I don't know. But overall, definitely a good brick film. You should go check it out if you can.
Well, that's all we have for this episode today. I hope you enjoyed this Brickfilms monthly recap, and we'll see you on the next show.
Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed the show, and comment with any suggestions you might have, or just general feedback. So we'll see you next time.